Good afternoon, everybody. Week of the Volpe Create Show, the weekly talk show about video games and creative technology. It is pre-GDEX week, so I'm wearing my GDEX shirt.
So exciting.
As always, I am joined by Baby and Pumpkin, who are over there. They're about to start a fight over food, so we may hear them at some point. Lucas, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great, y'all. I hope you're having a great day as well, Chris.
I am. I'm still fighting that headache through, like the big boys that we are. And of course, every week I bring on a special guest to talk about the industry and whatever else we feel like chatting about. This week is my good friend, Bankhurst, a man of many talents. In particular, though, a writer at IGN and a big supporter of the Extra Life charity, which is how we originally met each other.
So many
before
years
I go
ago.
on, is that you in a nutshell?
That's basically all you need to know about me. So not very exciting. No.
Relatively new father.
Yeah. Well, my son turns 3 in a few days, so excited about that. That's probably my biggest accomplishment. Definitely.
That's your biggest accomplishment.
my boy.
That's my boy. So yeah, I guess we can go back to the beginning. We met at the first GDEX when it was the Ohio Game Developer Expo, and just by happenstance, we were at the Ohio State University in the Union. We happened to be throwing our. You happened to be hosting the Extra Life event. So just by happenstance, there were two gaming events like across the hallway from each other.
I know. I think we should call that fate more than happenstance. It was meant to happen. Now, what was that, 2012 or 13?
2013.
Yeah, 2013. Yeah, I know. It was so crazy. We had this like whole thing set up. We're planning it for so long and had no idea you guys were going to be there. And we like set up and I was like, what is going on over there? It's how that just happened.
Yeah. That's one of the things where like, I'm not trying to harp on anyone. Like people are busy. Everyone's doing their thing. But like you think they would have let one of us know that there's another gaming event happening like across, that we, it's the same thing sometimes at the convention center. We did, oh man, I think it was like 4 years ago when we did GDEX. They were like, oh, by the way, there's going to be, man, what was it? Was it Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh? I think Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh tournament happening like in the convention center.
Yeah.
Like again, like upstairs from where we are. I was like, why don't you let us, like, why don't you like
so many of the world's problems could probably be solved by just a little bit of communication. It's amazing.
Yeah. And I know it's difficult. I've seen the team at the
sure.
convention center doing their thing and they're running around like crazy, and it doesn't help that people like me, are waiting to get that information there. Hey baby, do you need to go potties now? Do you have to go potties? We're not. Are we really going to go potties now? Oh my Lord. Lucas, why don't you talk to Adam for 1 second? She's losing her mind. Be rude, and I'll be right back.
I like Lucas better anyway, so.
Oh wow, thank you.
What's going on, man?
Oh, not much. I'm just having a great time here. I recently graduated college within the past month, so I am.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. After 5 long years of essays, I'm glad to be at home in the workforce. I can tell you that.
Oh my gosh! Wow, that's yeah. It sure is something. Do you have any idea?
Man, I'm hoping continuing something with this. I've been helping Chris a lot with getting GDEX all up and running. We're all super excited about it. We got a lot of cool shows, events, seminars coming this year. But I'm helping with one of my good friends organize a charity event for Extra Life at GDEX this year. It's the Strife Mania event.
Oh,
we kind of bring in like it's like WWE 2K.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, that thing
style.
looks awesome.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. But I've mostly been what I've been up to. So you excited for your stuff this year?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. It's still like, I miss going to all the conventions and all the big things. Just like slowly starting to come back, but it's still an exciting year for games and movies and just other things happening in life, and it's going well so far. So knock on wood, everything's good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm really excited I've been to I think I've been to MatsuriCon like one day, but this is like my first video game convention I'll ever be to. So I am ecstatic and also very nervous because it's my
Yeah.
first time but
Yeah.
no, I'm like super excited for all the different events and talks this year. I'm like
It's really exciting.
a very I feel very blessed to be able to help out organize such a cool event and to also be able to come to all the different
Yeah. Definitely. I know that's always a nice perk of it.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like it's hard to beat the energy of going to events. Like it really is worth it. I know there's a lot that goes into it, and especially with COVID, and as long as everybody's got to be safe. But when it works out and it's well, they're hard to beat. It's just so nice when you have like so many like-minded people together. It's the energy is just unmatched. It's really great.
Yeah, no, I agree. And welcome back, Chris. Oh, I think you're still
Thank
muted.
Yep. She had to go potties for sure. So over there. Adam, how are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Missed you a lot, but happy you're back.
Yeah,
Safe.
yeah. It's the professional touch you get here at the Volpe Creates show.
That's true. That's true.
I think that's the yeah, you mentioned COVID while I was out. I mean, that's just we're working from home, and sometimes the dog needs to go out and use the restroom.
Yep. I have 2 dogs, so watching the in-laws dog this time. So who knows what's going to happen during this show? I can only
Yeah.
imagine. I'm sure I just jinxed it.
Well, let's talk about events for a minute because I think you said you and Lucas when you're talking a couple things about events, and one of the things that I like, not just about GDEX, but just going to gaming events in general, is like everyone just sort of gets it, like when that like you don't have to explain what video games are
Right.
or what a particular character is. I go to like a lot of entrepreneur events here in Columbus, and I tell them what I do, and they're like, "Oh, okay," and they have no idea,
Right. Exactly.
It's just nice to be, for a weekend to be around folks who just sort of groove on what you groove on.
Yeah.
But you in particular, you're sort of in a like when you go to like PAX and work pleasure combo mode because you're often doing stuff for IGN. So what's that like when you're going to like a PAX? You let me Taylor, what was that 2019 before COVID?
Yeah.
You and I went and you're like I want to hang out, but I got to go visit a couple booths. I was like, all right, I'll just come with you. I think we played like a Final Fantasy game and a few other things.
Yeah, we got to do some cool stuff. It's nice. It's really cool. Especially me. So, people are familiar with their headquarters are based in San Francisco. They have offices in LA and all over the world and stuff. And I am in Columbus. So at the moment, I'm still working fully remote. Things may change in the future, but I'm still, working out of beautiful Columbus, Ohio. Events and things like that are kind of the one time where I really get to see everyone, besides going to the offices and doing stuff like that. But it's really an exciting time because not only do you get to, see people in the industry that you are talking to and finally putting faces to the name, but even seeing people who are just fans of video games or fans of Final Fantasy or Zelda, or seeing somebody with a cool shirt and be like, "Oh my God, where'd you get that thing?" or a cool device. There's something so special about those events, which that's why, I know E3 had a lot of issues and there's like people out there who are, maybe happy is not the right word, but to see it go down and hopefully something will rise in its place, but makes me sad because that's it. And it's hard to kind of beat them when they're kind of put together in a great way, which is also why it's so great GDEX is a thing, because that one's a lot closer. But it's a nice balance of fun and work, and it's challenging, but definitely the highlights of my year for sure.
Yeah, I want to come back to E3. I'm gonna make a little note because I want to come back to E3 because I'd like to talk about that. But one of the things that we get questions about, and I know you're going to kind of talk about at your GDEX session this week, this upcoming weekend here, June 9th through the 12th, 2022.
Yeah.
You carved a path for yourself in this sphere despite not living in California. And like you're in Columbus,
Yep.
and you to make a little niche for yourself that became attractive for a place like IGN, an outlet like them, to want to work more with you. Like, how did you get started in that process? Because I mean, it's been like 10 years that you and I have been talking about a lot of these things.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been a long way. And the video game industry it's a wonderful place, but it's also a very small place, and there's a lot less jobs and a lot more people that. So it's historically been a lot easier, especially if you live on that side of the country. Things have changed, which is nice, but a lot of the big places are over on the West Coast. But I just kind of started because I've always had an interest in technology and writing and being creative. And IGN used to have these IGN blogs that anybody could write for.
I like how
And
you did, you're like,
yeah. And
IGN.
I started just writing for them, just blogging here and there. And then one time somebody from IGN reached out and they were like, "Hey, we liked your blog. We want to feature it on the front page." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And it just kind of opened my eyes that it was very cool listening to podcasts. That's kind of when those also started happening, and started realizing that all these words that I'd been reading my whole life on IGN and other things like that are actual people, because sometimes you don't necessarily make that connection when you're younger. I was like, this
Sure.
is something that I could potentially do. So I just started writing, and it really kind of made a impact on that side of things. And I was like, I have to do more things. So it just kind of inspired me to really work hard and think outside of the box. And that's where the whole Extra Life thing started, where we would, I was like, you know what? I want to write about games, but I also want to help people who. And that led to Extra Life, which led to meeting you, which led to other opportunities and meeting other people and continuing to write, and then just getting more opportunities, and starting at the bottom, writing a bit for sites for free, and just kind of learning the ropes of everything. And it was basically just a journey of just trying things and seeing what sticks, but also not trying to get stuck for too long doing something I didn't like. And I the best parts of that journey is just kind of the friendships and things that happen just because I tried. I mean, so many people talk about doing things, and there's a lot of times I'm guilty of it too. Idea and I don't follow through and stuff, but like that's when stuff happens, even if it's not like the goal you set out to be and the exact destination you're dreaming of. When you kind of put yourself out there, like things happen, and then you adjust and adapt and make it happen. And it's been a lot of my journey. It's been a slower one. It's been a long one. I'm still, going on it, but there's been a lot of cool stops along the way so far, and I'm excited to see where it continues to go.
Yeah, I think you said a couple things there, but the primary one being like, just show up, right?
Exactly.
There's always that joke that like 90% of success is just showing up.
It's so
right?
true though.
Same thing like when you go to the gym, putting in like a half-assed day, you're there, you're doing something. But that's something I've talked to like our community members and my students about. It's like a big part of this is just showing up. And you mentioned another thing about the not in something you don't like to do for too long.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people worry. They're like, well, what if I do this thing and I don't like it? And it's like, well, go do something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like most of the stuff, like these aren't handcuffs. You're just
Right.
learning, and you were involved in stuff. You also have the Gamers Advocate, which is something you worked on.
Another thing
Are
I
still
started
working
too.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I think testing the waters on stuff, because you never know what will. And then to your last point there, you just meet people. You meet lots of folks.
Oh, yeah,
I didn't know you before I met you.
Right.
Lucas didn't know me before he sent me an email and kept bugging me to want an internship, and I was like, all right, fine. But like GDEX would not exist, and I'm not being hyperbolic, but it would not exist if I didn't go to things like PAX and just introduce myself and talk to people. Have folks like you connect me to other people, or there was that, I don't even remember, was that GDC? There was that IGN event like 4 years ago or whatever that we went to. You kind of snuck me in a little bit, but
yeah.
yeah, it might not have been
like
an
that.
IGN. It might have been like an ASUS or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that was one of them. Yeah.
But going to was that the event where the none of the computers worked? I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think it was Asus. It was either Asus
I
or
know.
Acer. I can't remember. But they had this big event that they were going to do, and they were showcasing like all these games, and they were going to have like tournaments on the stage, and then none of the tournament computers worked right.
I
So.
know. I know. Something, man. That's another thing
Yeah,
I've realized
dude,
is that there's always a problem.
yeah, I get it, man. You practice stuff and you set it up, and then like you get there and
Can't plan
something
for
goes
everything.
wrong, and
Yep.
it drives you crazy. We've been knock on fake table desk, whatever this thing is, that we haven't had any major issues at GDEX. So hopefully we will continue that trend this year.
And I think that's also an important lesson too, is like these problems will happen. Like perfect journey. Like something is going to happen. That's literally like my motto in life. I like joke sometimes I'm gonna put that on my grave or something. Is like it's always something. Like
Yeah.
it's always something, but it's how you respond to that really kind of makes a difference, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're totally. I think when stuff happens, which is going to happen, um, a lot of people get riled up, and it fix problems when you're in that stressed out mindset.
Yeah.
But also sometimes you can fix problems in a way that other people won't even know. You know, because a lot of times, like most of the stuff you're doing, I used to do this. So I was in art school. You know that I did photography.
Yeah.
And when we would do these art critiques, and it always blew my mind when some of my colleagues, they would spend talking about all the things they wanted to do and how it didn't work out. And I was like, the teacher had no idea. The teacher has no idea what you were planning on doing.
Yeah.
And now you're illustrating all the ways in which you were not able to do the thing you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Nobody is good and people have fun. But going back a little bit to the kind of carving your own path, I think that's an important maybe mindset. Because in the game space, there really isn't a like step A to B to C
No way
thing. You know, my background outside of photography is in healthcare, and you think about like medicine, there's a very defined doctors to go through.
Yeah.
You know, and you have your
you know where you're
undergrad
gonna end
degree
up
and
a
all that.
lot of places.
So yeah, I think having that mindset. But I'm curious about the getting stuck part. Pumpkin. You like you specifically, how do you make that distinction between like, oh, I'm going to put some time into this, I'm going to use it as a networking opportunity or a growth opportunity, but then being able to call it when you're like, okay, I've done this and getting me anywhere?
So I think one of the most important things, like, and you kind of touched on this a bit before, is showing that you are reliable and that you are necessarily not the problem in a way. So, like, let's say for sites before, and I like to give a site, 3 months, 4 months to see exactly how the inner workings are. And if I'm putting in all this work and, doing stuff and realizing that, myself or other like the best, or things aren't really happening as when people are promising things or saying, hey, if you do this, we want to give you more chances to preview things or more chances to review things, because it takes two to tango, as I say. You have to be
They do say that, yeah.
reliable. You have to be reliable, but also so do the people that you're working for. And if they're just feeding you false lies and little things to kind of keep you going, something's not right. It gets worse when you get to like a higher level, even to a place like IGN or one of these places, because you can run the risk of feeling, oh my God, I'm like so lucky to be working here. I want to do everything. I stay here. It doesn't matter if I'm being, treated unfairly or poorly or things like that. And I've have some friends that have gone through similar stuff like that. And it's kind of hard to see the forest for the trees, as it were, because you like the idea of this like big company, but like, what is it worth? Is it worth your mental health? Is it worth, having no time with your family and not getting things in return? There's just signs that are there that you may not want to see, but usually are there, especially early on. So I think it's just important to really be true to your word and true to yourself, and like learn from the people and see what's there. But if you notice something like doesn't smell right, after a while, it's probably going to start smelling worse, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I would tend to agree. I think giving a place once or so, it generally does give you a chance to kind of see how the structure is and whatnot. And particularly in a field like you're doing in journalism, that's a pretty solid cycle, you know? Like
Yeah, especially in the
between,
freelance world too. Like, obviously if you have a paid job, you want to hopefully give a little more time and stuff like that. But especially like in the freelance world where, you're going to be jumping back and forth and working for different people, easy to kind of see what's really happening
yeah.
if you're willing to.
Yeah. The first thing you said about you trying to not be the problem. I think again, you're just full of astute observations today, Adam. But I think ultimately, for me, the sort of core tenet of being a professional is that you are doing your thing the best that you can, and regardless of what's happening around you, you're not letting it impact your
Yep.
ability to produce.
Yeah.
And if the place that you're at is you feel impacting your ability to do your best work, I would say that's probably a pretty big red flag. But I've seen a lot of people and I think this maybe is just a general age or maturity space. They kind of come in with these expectations that like I'm owed this or that I should get this or whatever. And maybe it's just you and I, we've been through the trenches time. Like stuff takes time, and it does. It takes a while
It does.
to create your craft. There's a great video by oh my god, I'm totally blanking on his name. The guy who does This American Glass.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube, and it's like 3 minutes long, but a great video where he talks about taste and how when you get started in something, so he's a writer like you, when you get started in something, you have this idea of what good and quality is, but you yourself don't have the skills to get there yet, and that can be a frustrating thing.
Yeah, I think I know exactly what you're talking about. I remember hearing him talk about that.
Yeah, so you kind of have to just keep working at it. Suck initially, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure. I don't know if have you kept any like of your older.
Oh my god, yeah, definitely. I look back and I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, and it can be. There was a CNN article where within the first like 3 sentences, I think it was about like the war in Ukraine, and like it had like gunshots, crack, 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 crack. I was like, did you really just write crack, 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 crack? An article about a war. I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nothing against. I don't know who wrote that.
No, right.
Could have been
That's
Ira
funny.
Glass for all I know, but
yeah.
But I think it is important to keep. And I guess you were involved in so many things. How do you prioritize? Let's say pre-child to post-child.
Oh my god.
Prioritize like your time and what you want to specialize in. And
so yeah, it's tough because especially starting in the freelance world, starting from nowhere, you're obviously not much money. So I started at a full-time job. I was an IT manager at a local company and did some marketing stuff and other things like that. And obviously you want to prioritize having a good life and doing things like that. So it's obviously super important, but I always knew that there was like something more like this. There's something else that I wanted. And it takes hard work and dedication. It takes late nights. It takes, some sacrifices and stuff, but it doesn't have to sound so dire necessarily. Instead of playing, 4 hours of the latest Legend of Zelda game, I'll play like 2, and then I'll go write something for like 30 minutes or write a blog or start that. And it's really kind of about starting small too, because I always, hear people, I've struggled with this in the past too, sometimes too, of trying to go for, big diets for New Year's resolutions, and you start something new. Like, I want to write the next biggest, greatest novel or things like that. And you get started and then you kind of just fall off after
Mhm.
really kind of interesting stuff. And I think it's important to find something first you're passionate about, but things that you can like start easy. Like you can, it's so easy to start a blog and write about, hey, how was your day? Or hey, you liked something from that state of play yesterday? Just go in your notepad and write a little thing. Hey, I thought this was cool, but I wish they showed this. Like there's so many little things that I think you can start doing. And once you kind of do a few of those things, I kind of like this side of things. I like in speaking in, journalism side or games industry thing. I like writing about reviews, or I like previews, or I like features, or I like looking into this side of things. It's just, once again, it's small, especially when you're new to the whole thing because you don't know what you don't know. So you just kind of have to try a lot of stuff, and sooner or later you'll be like, "Hey, I think I'm pretty good at this," or "I think I like this." And I think
Yeah.
that's a good place to start.
I guess it is worth mentioning that you predominantly don't do like game reviews, right? Like
Correct.
that's not you tend to do more news snippets, previews, those kind of things. Um, Game reviews, or do you
So
kind
yeah,
of like the area you're
so it's
in?
interesting. So for context, so I started IGN as a news freelancer. So I was just doing news. But IGN is very welcoming to people out. So as it stands now, I've been there for about 3 years, and I basically I run the IGN homepage and IGN news on weekends and nights. And like when people are out, I'm usually the one running all that stuff. I do a lot of behind the scenes stuff with like features, and I do a lot of stuff on the sales and branded side. So I write, promotional articles for companies that reach out and do all these things that people will probably never see. So there's like so much that kind of goes on behind the scenes, while news is kind of like the most front facing thing where a lot of people may have seen me. Like there's a lot more stuff that kind of goes on behind everything. As far as the reviews, yes, like I've done a few, but they're not my main thing. And in all honesty, like I do love reviews, and it's obviously really cool to be able to review a game early and to get things early, kind of be at the forefront, because those usually do, a whole ton of traffic and everything. But they are so time consuming. And it's not the best way to experience a game in a lot of cases,
Yeah.
especially like a game like Elden Ring. Like our reviewer Mitchell, I think he played like 80 some hours in like 4 days or something, or 5 days. It was just, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I still love video games, and that's not my favorite way to play them. So sometimes it can be, I think reviewing entertainment things is also kind of a nicer pace thing, because usually it's a 2 hour movie or, a TV show. So that can be a little less daunting. And obviously smaller games are there too, but it's definitely something I want to get into a bit more and do it. But there's like so many other things that I also love doing that I probably wouldn't be able to do if I was just strictly reviewing games, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I even feel like so I've been doing a little streaming with my friend Jake, who you know Jake, um,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's been fun. But even like a lot want to go and play a game, like the act of streaming it
Oh, I'm the
is
same
more
way.
work. I was like, I just kind of want to enjoy it and play it.
100%.
I don't want to feel like I have to be on or engaging in some way. I want to like the experience. And I know there are streamers that will stream it and they don't pay attention to the chat, like they
Yeah.
focus on the game, and um, that's kind of like where I'm at. I, I, I don't know. If I'm gonna sit down and play something, I want to enjoy it, right?
Yeah, I know. That's a problem I deal with a lot, because I do have a Twitch channel, and I've streamed here and there, and I've, had a big push like when Valorant came out, and I like made what's the smaller one? Not partner.
Affiliate,
Affiliate, there it is. I was like associate. I'm like, that's not right.
associate.
And like I did that, and like it's I do enjoy it, but yeah, it is like a job. I mean, it's really there's such a commitment to it, and it's an issue too, because for me, I've also kind of made an interesting niche for myself where I do a lot of, because San Francisco's on Pacific time, uh, and there's in the UK on the IGN team, like news team and stuff like that. So I'm kind of in the middle of both of them. So I kind of teeter back and forth. And I also do a lot of work at nighttime, especially having like a 2.5-year-old. So it's nice when he's sleeping, I'm at work. So that obviously cuts into a lot of game and streaming time and things like that. So it's it's an interesting schedule that I've kind of found myself in. So having that thought of like having to work and then having to go on to work, it unfortunately, I like wish there was more time, but of course there's not.
There never is. There never is. So let's talk about just because I know you are. I want to.
Oh wait,
Let's
hold
talk
on,
about-
Chris. Sorry, hold on one sec.
Yep.
Lucas, I need to tag you in for 1 sec. I'll be right back.
Cool. That works for me. What's going on, Chris?
Nothing. I'm not sure what the audio issue is. I've been listening to it in the background a little bit, so I hear what people are saying.
Yeah, me too. I don't know what's going on. So like I have like the OBS session on my computer and it's showing no dropped frames, but like the audio's cutting in and out like randomly. I appreciate whoever tagged a clip in chat and clipped it for us to take a look at later.
Yeah.
We apologize for the issue.
It's a Twitch issue because we record the videos too and put them up on the YouTubes, so we might have a cleaner version of the audio from that file. So who knows?
Conversation. It looks good on my end, which is the weird part. So I'm like, I'm seeing everyone type, and I'm like, oh no, there's problems, and I'm desperately trying to fix it. So yeah,
there's our technology. There's always something.
Yeah. Hopefully doesn't keep up next week at our big thing.
Yeah. We're gonna do a Volpe Creates live at GDEX next week. We're gonna figure out what the details on that are gonna be, but that'll be fun. I think we'll do it. Should be same bat time, same bat channel. So yeah.
I'm excited for it personally. I've always really had a fun time running this talk show, so to do it in front of a bunch of people live makes me, other than being at home, makes me nervous, but I think it's going to be a great time.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome back.
Yeah, just a crazy dog action.
Crazy dog action.
Which can be taken weird ways. It's not a weird way, I promise.
Yeah, I see that there's a little dogger behind you, right?
Yeah, that's Ori, named
Ori.
after Ori in the Blind Forest. Amazing game if nobody's played it.
Yeah, Will and the Smiths. I forget where we were when we were pre-dog conversation, but I was gonna ask you what are the kind of things that you are going to talk about at your GDEX session?
So I had my first big talk about this last year, which I so appreciate, and it was really sure what to expect, but it really was a great chat, and it was mostly just I opened the floor because I feel like, especially people that come to GDEX, developers, like a lot of people have talked to people at shows or everything about how do I get my game on IGN, or like what's the review process like for games, or how do I get my game noticed, and things like that. And I kind of just love saying, hey, just have a chat, like a fireside chat. Like, what have you always kind of wanted to know about the big media companies and how you get your game featured? And it's such little things, like when you send a message to a site like IGN or GameSpot, a smaller site you want to be featured on, what should you do? Like, what are the things that you need to do? Like, you should have a really good image. You should have really clear, an elevator pitch of what your game is. And it's amazing. And it's in no fault of these developers, but them don't know what to send because there's not like really there's not a checklist every time you say, hey, I want to become a developer. This is how you get your game noticed. So I think there's a lot of things from being on this side of the industry for a while that I think to developers and people that are trying to get their games seen by bigger audiences, which is interesting. And then also just journalists or people who want to join the media. Like, what is it like working for a site like IGN? How does it compare to other things? How does it work behind the scenes? There's just kind of a lot of things that I feel like I've learned that I enjoy talking about, because I would have loved to talk to myself like 10 years ago to be like, hey, what goes on over there at these places and what is actually happening, because it's sometimes hard to really understand what it's like. And it's been an interesting experience. So just kind of sharing a bit of my journey, and saying it can take a while, but things can happen, and there's a lot of little things that you can do as either a journalist or a developer to really give you a really good shot at being seen, or at least having great, but maybe it's not quite ready yet. Reach back out in like a few months or a year or something. I think there's so many little things that people can do that can really take them so far that, to no fault of their own, they don't necessarily know, because how would they?
Yeah, absolutely. A big part of, well, every industry, but just sort of in marketing and promoting yourself, is cutting through the noise,
Yep.
right? Like,
Oh yeah.
how do you give somebody like an Adam Bankhurst, how do you give them the information they
Exactly.
need in a digestible format, so that you can make the decision on if you want to cover it or not, or
Yeah.
like you said, maybe it's not. And in particular, you and I have discussed this before, and I've talked with, like, Damon was on our show
Yeah.
a couple months ago. But when you're reaching out to larger publications like IGN company, you mentioned that they have a UK branch, they have an Australian branch, they got others around the world.
Yep.
Their interest isn't just going to be in the game. They promote this to a large audience, how can they make it something that will be interesting for multiple types of demographics to want to check out?
Yeah.
And yeah, when you, as a developer in particular, you're not quite sure how to best phrase
kidding.
that in a way that so like GDEX is an example. Like, we've had GDEX in the past from IGN before. I think you might have done one of them.
Yeah, I got one so far. They let me do one so far.
But even though GDEX is we're a national show in the sense that we get folks from all across the country, in the scope of something like an IGN, we're still a regional event.
Right.
So figuring out how we can create something that's interesting to them is important. Like next week when we announce Half-Life 3, right?
That's what I'm saying. I said not to say that, Chris. Come on.
Oh, please. We'll cut it from
yes,
the
thank
YouTube
you.
video.
Thank you.
But thinking about, like, side, is there, like, just, I don't want to ruin your talk, so just
Oh no, please.
I'm not
so no secret.
Yeah, just a couple things that come to mind when, like, you see an email or a press release or whatever, where you're like, okay, this is looking like these people know what they're doing. And are there a couple things that pop into your mind?
Yeah, definitely. So this is actually something like I prepared for last show and that I've really thought about of things like that, because I mean, I requests IGN, like we get so many requests from people. It's either from, the developers, publishers, so many other people, and it's just all wide array of types of emails. And as much as we would love to read every one, many times where we'll get, people that write 5, 6, 7 paragraphs of why their game is going to be the next greatest thing ever, or other things like that. And it can easily get drawn down. And it's not that we don't care. It's just, there's no time to, unfortunately. It's just, it gets rough. So what I really recommend to people when you're pitching a company like IGN or another, media brand like that, you really want to have it certain level, like concise level. Let's say it's an email, for example. The one thing I always tell people to do is give me a clear image, like a clear image of an in-game screenshot that has either like an animal or some distinctive figure that's kind of in the process. Because when you look at IGN and you look at all the thumbnails, those are one of like the most important things, because that's where we obviously measure where clicks happen and stuff like that. And I've gotten pictures that's like a great image, but then there's like a big logo over it, or there's, words all over it, or it's blurry, or it's far away. Having a really strong, striking image from your game, even if it's concept art, if it's not ready, concept art or a cut from a cutscene or something, but just something that will say, oh, okay, I kind of like this style, or I like what they're kind of going for here, or oh, it takes place in the ocean. This is kind of cool. Like a picture can tell so much, and I know a picture can speak 1,000 words, whatever you want to say, but it's very true because I get a lot of pitches a lot of times with videos that are low quality or pictures, screenshots that aren't great and things, and that's like an immediate. You may not have the most resources to have this great big thing that you want to deliver, but even just a little image can go a long way. And then also, give me the genre of the game. Give me a 1 to 2 sentence elevator pitch why this game is special, what it's all about, and also, obviously the title and potential release dates and things like that. Because what I think is most important is you want to like catch our attention. Like it's basically if you're like throw out a line, you want to get that hook. And then if it's like, oh, hey, this is something interesting, like we will reach out and we'll say, hey, we kind of like what's going on. Can you tell us a little more? Because if you kind of throw too much, that's the quickest way for us to be like, man, I wish I could read this, but there's not enough time to kind of go through this. And it's hard to parse through like what exactly they're getting at. So really kind of focusing and pinpointing exactly what makes your games is, I think, the most important part. And it's so much more important than writing this whole long thing about it that may get lost, because I think you want to start very top level. And then once we start talking or you get kind of that first bite, start revealing more. And then, you have more to reveal and then there's more excitement instead of just giving something out right away. So that's really, I think, most important is be concise, be courteous. Don't follow up every 5 seconds, like maybe days before you follow up. And I think following up is totally fine. I mean, I don't think you should follow up. Like, let's say you email someone and then you keep emailing them every 3 days over and over and over and over again. I don't think that's a good strategy either. I think following up 2 or 3 times is good. And then like wait 3 to 6 months and then try again. Because I think persistence is needed. And a lot of times, like when people respond to you and say, hey, I'm so sorry I, a lot of times that's true. They're not just like, spouting a lie to try to get out of it. A lot of times things just get missed. So following up is definitely part of the process, but just being quick, concise, but giving a good amount of info. Hey, I want to learn more about this. I think that's really what you have to think about.
Yeah, I the following up thing rings with me because I have to do that a lot with the GX planning.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'll reach out to folks. And yeah, sometimes like, there's numerous speakers that I've gotten to come to GDEX that I've had to kind of just be persistent at.
Yeah.
And there definitely is there's a point in the back of my head where I'm like, all right, am I bugging this guy too much?
Yeah. Yep.
And if I feel that ping, then the next follow up I send, I sort of preface with that, which is being like, hey, if you don't have time or you're not interested, well, I just wanted to do one last reach out to you,
right?
Just to give them. And you'd be surprised how many times if you put in there like, hey, I'm sure you're busy, I just wanted to do one last reach out, that's the one that catches their attention. Someone that kind of like cues into their brain. They're like, oh, I've been delaying on this too long.
Yep, for sure.
And then they'll usually give you, and going back to being a professional, like, I mean, there's certain people that will, honest with you, they'll be like, look, I'm interested. I like what you're doing, but I just don't have the time, right now. And I'll follow up with me in 4 months or whatever. Mm-hmm. So yeah, totally. Well, in our last few minutes here, I want to talk about some with you. So we just had the PlayStation event yesterday. Did you do any coverage for that or did you just watch it?
So if you go to IGN.com and check out the roundup, that was all me. It was like, I was talking with people and felt like I was in the Matrix because like I'm covering it live. So the whole time I'm just like typing, going back and forth and seeing everything. They're some of the most stressful times, but kind of exciting times to see like all the teams come together. But yeah, the round of everything happening at the state of play was me. So that was my big job yesterday.
Well, what was your big one?
So I'm a huge Final Fantasy guy. So very excited about Final Fantasy 16. Sad about the summer 2023, which was a bit closer. Not too surprised, but it's interesting. What
After
was
how
it?
long it took to do
Oh yeah.
15. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's I mean it's definitely looks, which is, I mean I do love the traditional style JRPGs of Final Fantasy, but I very excited to see what, and I like the big focus on the summons or icons, which are, I think is going to be really cool in that game. That remake is going to be amazing. That was obviously a big one. Huge fan of that game, but those are
Yeah.
probably the big ones,
You
definitely.
think they'll do it justice?
I think so. I mean, especially after Resident Evil 2 remake, which was freaking amazing. And
Yeah, but then there was the Resident Evil 3.
I know
As
they're
amazing.
learning. They're learning their ways.
They're learning.
They're
They're
finding stuff.
learning.
But I think
Okay,
Resident Evil,
okay.
yeah, Resident Evil 4, it's gonna be interesting because it's definitely a bit more of a modern version of Resident Evil. So it'll be interesting to see. It doesn't seem like it's, you know, a transition, but they said they're gonna try to play with it a bit and, you know, change story beats here and there and stuff like that. But I've tried to go back to Resident Evil 4 over the years, and it doesn't quite hit as hard as it did before with some of the controls. Still obviously enjoy
Sure.
it for what it is, but it'll be nice to see it through like the eyes that I originally saw it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Resident Evil 4, because that game hit in our, you know, we weren't kids, but our, you know, formative young adult, late
Yeah.
teen kind of years. And it definitely was. You mentioned like they're giving it like a modern appeal because 4 was
Yeah. Oh,
that
yeah.
was the
It's much
modern
more
version
actiony.
of
Yeah, a little
yeah
more.
the Resident Evils before it.
Uh-huh.
Even though I really like I love Resident Evil 1. I think the HD remake of 1 is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 4 is just weird as hell too. Like
I know. It really is.
I just did some weird stuff in that one, which is cool. So Final Fantasy 16 and then Resident Evil. 4. Is there anything that you were surprised wasn't there, or you wish was there? There was a lot of rumors flying around. Well, Sony kind of came in hot on this one too. They didn't give a lot of heads up.
Yeah,
that this was
yeah.
coming.
I actually thought it was a very good show. I mean, it didn't have that like one more thing mind blowing that I think like moment that I always love at these kind of shows.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think it really did. I was really kind of hoping actually to see future of Astrobot, like maybe something for PlayStation VR 2 or something, because I thought Astro's Playroom is still one of the best PS5 games ever, and the VR game was good too. So it would have been nice to see like a little tease that he's coming back.
Yeah.
But I thought I thought it was a really nicely paced show that kind of gave updates on a lot of big games. It was good.
Yeah. I think Astrobot's a great mascot.
Oh yeah.
A lot better than Knack.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion.
I hope they do like a Knack versus Astrobot game. Let's bring that to life.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
What do you think of? I've talked to several of the guests about this, but this year has been a big consolidation year in the gaming space. A lot of buyouts, whatnot. Obviously, the biggest one for PlayStation was Bungie recently, but then you got the Bethesda. But now there's rumors about EA possibly selling. There's always rumors about Hideo Kojima doing something.
Yeah,
and maybe
right.
PlayStation buying out that studio or a new project. What's your sort of overall take in the last few minutes we have here about the buyouts? Oh, and of course the Square Enix one where they sold a lot of their properties.
Yeah, that was a big one to
like
Embracer Group that is literally taking over everything.
Yeah. When I saw that, I was like, oh, wow. But then they said that they got rid of Deus Ex. I was like, yes, finally, maybe somebody will do something with Deus Ex again.
Definitely.
Square said they weren't going to do anything with it for a while, and I really like that property. But
oh yeah,
what's your take on all this shucking and jiving that's been going on?
So I think it's kind of inevitable in a sense because games are just making so much money. I mean, obviously, like the industry is just it's insane how much these properties can make. Companies get bigger and they see the money signs go higher and obviously they see Grand Theft Auto and what that can do and how every company wants to create the next Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
I mean, the only way to do that is to consolidate power so you have more resources, business people's. That's all it takes is more money, which is not the case at all. But I think unfortunately it's going to keep happening. I feel it's just the nature of the game, but you know, it's interesting because I feel like a lot of companies sometimes do go through phases of, highs and lows, and you see that with, BioWare or certain other companies, EA with a lot of their Star Wars games, which I mean, I know people like Fallen Order, but I feel like that was more Respawn than cases. But
Totally. Totally.
so I think there's some bright spot that could be found out it that like a lot of these older companies that may be stuck in their ways are getting acquired by these bigger companies. Then there is more space for these indie studios to kind of come up and find a little space. But it's definitely worrisome that if like everybody is under one brand and something happens to it, or the studios kind of lose their identity, that's always the biggest problem. And feel like it's impossible to kind of tell what's going to happen because whenever a sale goes through, you always get the boilerplate. We want these people to stay doing what they do and we love it and we want to make it perfect for them.
Yeah.
But then you hear so many stories of people leaving or harassing, the culture changing or things happening. It's never going to quite be the same. So it's an interesting time, but I don't know.
Totally. I agree when everything just consolidates around a couple big players, right?
Yeah.
Because like you said, and I think PlayStation over the past, I don't know, let's say 13-ish, 15 years has done a really good job about bringing in, but letting them retain kind of their own DNA in some ways, which is great. Xbox, obviously, you look at things like the Rare acquisition and stuff, and has not had the best track record of it, but it looks like with the Bethesda side, they might be doing better.
I hope so.
Even though it's still kind of early in that process to see where it's at. The thing that worries me about Microsoft is that they also have a tendency to like prematurely kill products that aren't they want them to, which I think is a shame because sometimes things need a little bit of time to breathe or to catch on. I always joke about Chrono Trigger, where it's like everyone's all about Chrono Trigger now, and like if like $500, I was like, that was my favorite game growing up when I was younger. Nobody talked about Chrono Trigger. Like,
oh, I know.
I think it was me and another friend were the only ones who even knew what that game was. Now everybody knows about it. And there's like, when are we going to sequel? And I was like, well, there was one like 30 years ago, but yeah, I think it is curious. The indie thing, I think that's a interesting take on it because as consolidate around projects and then end up spending more money on them, it takes longer to get those out. Like we're seeing fewer and fewer like large AAA games every year. Obviously COVID's up in general.
And Cyberpunk, make sure everyone's like, wait, let's maybe not release so quickly.
Yeah. And I think that there is room for like indie to pop up.
Yeah.
But then it's also, sort of commiserate on folks like you in the IGN spheres, the big spheres, to make sure that those smaller titles are getting props.
Definitely.
So that people can know about it. There's so many good games out there that just, again.
Dream at GDEX.
Yeah. And a GDEX. We've got every year, the games just keep getting better and better at GDEX. It's awesome.
Yeah. It's great.
I've been doing, I think I told you, I have my game club, which is like a book club for video games.
Oh yeah. I remember you mentioned something like that. Yeah.
So I got to actually post, when are we on the 3rd? I should probably post this month's game. But I try to keep titles so we can get some of those like indie games out there that are kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's so weird. I talked to Damon about this and I don't, you and I, but I think it's cool that folks that are in our age group that love video games, we've more or less grown up since the inception of the industry.
Yeah, definitely.
Like we've seen the beginning to where it is now, and it's pretty rare to watch an industry start and evolve. Not a lot of people get to do that.
It's exciting.
It is, and I don't know where it's going to go.
What's cool about it, I guess.
Yeah. And what was it? 10 years ago, everything's going mobile. Consoles are going to be
consoles
dead.
Are dead. Everything's gone. Yep. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Buddy.
Now consoles are doing better than ever and mobile's kind of stagnated. Now, to be people that were predicting that didn't actually understand what gamers liked about games.
Yeah.
You know,
A lot of people still don't understand.
yeah, that's a whole. We could talk a whole other hour on
next
that,
time
but,
on Volpe Creates.
yeah. Well, I know you had a hard stop here at 2, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Is there anything else you want to chat about before we call it a day?
No, I'm excited to. I really appreciate the chance to talk to you. I feel like I wish we had more chances, and hopefully this year we'll have more of those. But I'm excited to see what awesome stuff you guys have done at GDEX, and excited to hopefully meet some people and do some good things, and hopefully do
I
some
think
good
you'll
stuff
like
next
it.
year.
We've got some really cool stuff this year. It's going to be a fun time.
Excited, very excited. So
So, were you gonna say?
Oh, go for it. No, I'm good, man.
No, I was just gonna ask. Where can people reach you or get a hold of you or learn more about you?
So I mostly hang out on Twitter at Adam Bankhurst, just my name, super easy. And then obviously you can catch all my work at IGN. I also do a podcast called The Gamer's Advocate with a few of my best friends, and we just talk about games and life and everything in between. And those the main places. And it's and then you can come catch me at my talk this Saturday, or come a week from Saturday. We'll be talking all about stuff, so you can hear more of those stories. Feel free to ask me. I always say if you see me on the show floor, don't hesitate to come and say hi, and I'm happy to talk to you and see what's going on in your life and all that stuff. And that's what it's all about. That's what I love so much about this job, is meeting people and doing stuff and relationships, because it makes it all worthwhile. It's really the best part, especially you, Chris.
Oh, you're too kind. Too kind. Well, Adam, thank you so much for being on the show this week. I appreciate it, and I'm excited to see you. I don't think I've seen you in the flesh in quite a while here.
I know, it's been too long, my friend. Yeah,
so next week, maybe I'll buy you a drink or something.
I look forward to it.
Everybody else, thank you for watching episode of the Volpe Creates show. We are here every week at 1 p.m. Eastern time on Friday. Next week, remember, will be our special GDEX edition, so make sure to check that out. On behalf of Baby and Pumpkin, who are both sleeping here, Mr. Lucas, and myself, we want to thank you for being here, and we will see you next week.
Thank you, everyone.